Good day, poker peeps. Sky with Smart Poker Study. The other day, I played a super aggressive bring it on session where I actually ended up playing a 40/32 game, won 3.5 buy-ins, positive 264 big blinds per 100 hands. Now, the goal of this session was just to get as aggressive as I possibly could. Not like willy-nilly aggression, but more like well-timed, well-placed aggression, trying to win pots with steals, trying to win value with my best hands. So, out of the 134 hands I played, I actually pre-selected 12 different hands, 12 different aggressive-filled hands. Some of them are winning hands, some are losing hands as well. We're going to go through all 12 hands right now, where you're going to see some great plays I made, some great plays I didn't make, or some mistakes I made, as well as learn quite a few lessons in these 12 hands. So we're going to right-click, hit Replay All Hands and Report, and let's get to it. So hand number one, we've got the ace-jack in the small blind. Under the gun, min open. This is only my second hand at the table. 2.2 big blinds, a few folds. I decide to come in with a small 3-bet, a min 3-bet. Now, I do this sometimes, for one, to test out different bet sizes, and the min 3-bet is a bet size that you can absolutely use. But one of the interesting things is when you make a min 3-bet like this, when somebody just calls, it really does cap their range, because most of the time, if he had like pocket 10s or better, he's going to come in with a re-raise. He's not going to respect this tiny little 3-bet. So when he makes that call, probably a lot of Broadway hands, suited connectors, maybe some small pocket pairs, 7s, 8s, things like that. So he's capped his range. 8, 8, 7, 7s and 8s, I don't want him to hold those, right? But I was the pre-flop 3-better. I could have done that with pocket aces, pocket kings, and I just want to put maximum pressure on him right now, right? I want him to fold those overcard hands. So I make it 9 into 7.8, and he ends up calling drat. But he could be the kind of player to use his position to call me on the flop, and then as soon as I check the turn, boom, he comes out firing that turn to steal the pot. So the 4 comes, it's not an overcard, it's not ace, king, queen, jack, or even a 10 to hit him with top pair. So I'm going to use that card to my advantage. Coming back in again, 35 big blinds, over 26 big blind pot, and boom, the overbet takes this one. The next hand, ace 5 suited, come in for the open raise in the cutoff, and a few folds, and an unknown player calls out of the big blind. I flop the nut flush draw. He checks, I decide to bet. It's fine, the half pot bet, and he does just call. Now, after making that bet, on this turn 9, I really should have double barreled. I really hate my check behind. I like one of two different plays. Either maybe overbetting 15 big blinds would be absolutely fine. We can get him to fold a ton of draws right here. Even an 8 can fold. A king won't fold. But I really like just at least double barreling, sending the message that I have the goods. Now, what I could have done was a very simple 8 big blind double barrel. And if he raises, I can get out of there. Piece of cake. Or, depending on the size of his raise, if I suspect weakness, I can come back over the top. I have the nut flush draw right now. So I don't like the check behind because it's totally showing weakness. And then look what happens. He comes in for an over pot size bet, and I have to just fold. Now, because this is ignition hole cards with the exposed hands 24 hours later, we can see he had the 10-6. Another plan that I could have done, and I thought about this later while reviewing the hands, is a very simple 3 big blind bet, slightly less than half pot right here. On the turn, when it's a little bit smaller of a pot, now I can go bigger to like 8 big blinds and would really put the pressure on him, and there's a good chance he could have just folded right there. But if I would have bet, if he had check called on that river, I would have hit, a pair, but I'm still ahead of his 10 high hand. He probably would have checked because he missed his flush draw, and then boom, I would have just checked behind and taken that one down. So yeah, a missed turn bet led to losing a good 7 big blinds in this one. So the next hand, we've got the queen jack offsuit, come in for the min open. Now we face a small 8 big blind 3-bet from the small blind. Now a couple things. Number one, I don't respect small 3-bets, anything below 9 big blinds. Just right away, I think it's a bluff. He's also in the bluffingest position. People love 3-bet bluffing out of the small blind because it looks so scary, because everybody else knows this is the worst position at the table. And so I think he's just trying to take it down right now. Big blind folds, and I just decide to come back over the top. I'm putting him to the test. I'm making it 26 big blinds, and boom, he folds. We take this one down. Now, I could have gone to like 20 big blinds or so, but making it 26, it doesn't have to work that much more often for a break-even point, and I think he's folding even more at 26 big blinds versus just 20. So I really like this bet. But this takes us right into the next hand. You can see villain 10 is the one that we just made a 4-bet. He doesn't know we bluffed, but we just used some aggression against him. In this next hand, we have pocket jacks. Now, this is one of the great things about playing a loose aggressive style. You sometimes get paid off when you have very strong hands, especially against those players that you used aggression, and he might be smarting from that last one. He might not like us too much. We open raise to 3. We get a 10 big blind 3-bet here. Remember, this is the guy last hand, 8 big blinds, made it smaller, and then folded. I think he probably has a decent hand. It could be pocket 9s or better. It could be ace 5 suited. It could be ace king, ace queen. Lots of hands, but we have the 4th best starting hand. Now, I think back to the prior hand, and I used a big bet, big aggression. He is not going to like that prior bet. Like I said, he's angry with me. So what do I decide to do? I come back over the top. I shove. I hope that he calls with pocket 10s, 9s, 8s, ace king, ace queen, something that he just thinks that we are full of it. We have pocket 4s for all he knows right now. We might even have ace 5 suited in his mind right now. So he calls. Let's see what he called with. Ace king. Now, he does have some equity against me, but on this flop, wow, loving that. Not scared of anything. Whew, we faded the ace king. Really good hand, and I really think I did a good job of utilizing that prior aggression. And look at those stats. I guarantee a player like this is using a HUD. He's seeing these stats. He thinks I'm a maniac. He thinks he's getting it in with a much better hand than I am right here. Now, remember that prior hand where I said I do not respect small 3-bets nor small blind 3-bets? Another thing to not respect is the small blind to open raise. Now, I do have a hand good enough, king queen suited, to 3-bet, so I 3-bet, but it makes it so much easier when he's out of the small blind. Like I said, just don't respect those open raises. Drat, but he ends up calling. Flop comes ace, 10, ace. He checks to us. Now, it does help that I have a gut shot plus a backdoor flush draw, but here's the thing. When somebody faces a 3-bet, one of the first hands, if it's not pocket aces or pocket kings that goes through their mind, it's ace king. Oftentimes in a 3-bet pot, when you are the 3-better, you can use that against your opponent. There's 2 aces out there. He's going to automatically think we have ace king. When we make this bet, boom. He folds so easily. He's going to fold every pocket pair that's ahead of us. He can fold king 10 right now, a second pair on the paired ace board that's ahead of our king queen. So I really like this. We're utilizing that idea, that scare factor of, oh my God, he has an ace king for 3-betting. We're using that against him here. Now, the next hand, another 3-betting hand here. We get an open, and then the short stack caller. A great squeeze opportunity, right? Absolutely. So I do it. 12 big blinds. But here's a big issue. You always have to be careful when you're squeezing a short stacked player because they're more likely to call, especially if the open raiser calls, which he did. So I really think because this player called, boom, he called as well. Now you need to be aware of those short stacks because he only has 38 big blinds behind. There's 37 in the pot. He's probably committed with any kind of pair. The 3-9-4 board, I hate the fact that I checked right here. I should have Cbet, something slightly under half pot, maybe something like 18 big blinds. And the reason why is because he is probably going to fold with all of his overcards as that pot is growing with this short stack player still involved. Because if I Cbet, he can shove over me. My check is total weakness. We get a check. And of course, he's going to shove with all of his overcards. And then what can I do at this point? Folding is my only play unless I think he's bluffing like a king high hand or something, which he actually was bluffing a king high hand. But the play that I really like after reviewing this hand is when it's my option, I'm going to go 18 big blinds right now. He's probably going to fold. If he does call, that's okay. I can always barrel on the turn. I might even catch an ace or a jack to beat his pocket 7s. Of course, at the time, I didn't know he had 7s. Remember, these are 24 hours later, ignition, whole cards, exposed hands. But if I made it 18, he could have folded or called. Definitely wouldn't have shoved over the top. But then he would have folded or maybe re-shoved over me. Given that I have 2 overcards plus the backdoor nut flush draw, if I make it 18, he shoves for 20 more, he reopens the action to me. I can come back over the top for my remaining 70 big blinds, really put the pressure on him. So I'd be isolating a player with possibly 2 overcards that are weaker than mine, and I would have made this player exit the hand. But what happened, I really disliked the check, like I said, and then we folded. He took this one down. Next hand, we have king, queen suited. 1 limper. We decide to ISO raise. The reason why I use 5 or 6 quite often is because I want this player all to myself. He limped into the pot. He's showing that he is a fish. I love taking on fish, especially when I'm in position. Flop comes down, jack 5-9, 2 overcards, gut shot. He checks, and we decide to bet 5.8. Now, here's an interesting thing. You always want to pay attention to your opponent's bet size. When I bet 5.8, automatically that bet slider will show a min raise of 11.6. To get to 13.6, he either had to type it in or he hit that +1 big blind button. He hit it twice. When somebody notches their bet size up 1, 2, or 3 big blinds, they're going for value. If they notch it down 1, 2, or 3, they're trying to bluff you and save money. This tells me he is absolutely betting for value. I have no idea what he has right now, but I have to make the fold. Now, here's another thing. You might say, Sky, you've got 2 overcards. If he just has a jack, you can catch him on the next street. You've got a gut shot as well. That's true. I have 10 outs to a very good top pair or the nut straight. But here's the thing. 10 outs only hits about 20% on the next street. He only has 31 big blinds. If I call right now, that pot's going to be 40 big blinds. He's out of position against me. Whatever that turn card is, he's shoving. Guaranteed, he is going to shove after check raising, showing that he has a value hand. So he's shoving 100% of the time on the turn, but I'm only going to hit my hand 20% of the time. That means 80%. If I call right here, I'm going to fold on the turn. Not worth making the call right now. You're better off just exiting the hand when you know you're going to face that shove and most likely have to fold later on. Now, the next hand, we've got pocket kings. Like I said before, when you have such a strong hand, this is where playing that loose aggressive style can really pay off. We squeeze to 12 big blinds. Oh, a cold caller. How interesting. Before we go on and see the action, let's think about this player right here. He cold called. He's a 17-13, looking tight aggressive. He cold called out of the small blind with 3 players yet to act. He doesn't end the action with this call. 12 full big blinds when he could have easily folded and just lost 0.5. What do you think a tight aggressive player has when he makes this call? I'll give you 3 seconds. Yes, he has pocket kings, pocket aces, or maybe ace king and he wants to see an ace or a king on that flop. He has the tightest of tight ranges right now. But when we see a flop like this, now we ain't afraid of no man. He checks. He bets just small, 11 big blinds. Okay. One of my key ideas, or the key things I live by at the micro stakes, is get value while the getting's good. We put him on a very strong hand. Pocket aces, he can't have kings because there's 3 kings out there. Pocket aces or ace king, ain't no way he's folding. I'm hoping he has a good hand like a set of jacks or something. So I come over the top, a small raise. I want more chips out of these players. I'm not shoving. And he calls, loving this right here. And then he calls as well. Pot is 118. I only have 62. Check. And a tiny bet. Well, compared to 1/3 of his stack or so. Tiny bet in comparison to the pot. So I decide to shove. Just got to do it. Get value while the getting's good. Don't just call. Let's get it in right now. He ends up calling. He calls as well. We'll see before that showdown. Wow. Pocket aces and pocket 4s for a set of 4s. Loving this. I built a nice, lovely 288 big blind stack utilizing that loose aggressive image when I have one of the best pre-flop hands, but the best flop hand. Now this next hand is very interesting. We have some kind of hand. I hid it so that you don't see it, but we're going to replay this hand from Villain 10's perspective because sometimes, like you saw in that last hand, those pocket kings, I was a super loose aggressive maniac. I got paid off, but sometimes that lag style, right now I'm a 41-31 with a 3-bet at 21%, that can backfire you because smart players can take advantage of it. They can exploit your aggressive tendencies. So what happens right here? Open raise, Villain 10 just calls. Now, Villain 10, if you remember, he's the guy that we 4-bet bluffed with our queen jack and got him to fold. We also doubled up through him with our pocket jack. I guarantee he's tight aggressive. He realizes what kind of player we are. He is going to play against our player type. So from this point forward in the hand, we are Villain 10. All folds over here. So we're in position versus a lag maniac on a flop of 3-3-6. Now, he bets, less than half pot. It's only 1/3 pot. I suspect absolute weakness right here. This guy's a maniac. He has a very wide range, even though he opened from the MP, really wide, all the broadways, 10 jack suited, ace 5 offsuit, anything like that this player has. So I'm going to call just to see what he does on the turn. I hope he checks and then I can bet and fire turn. Oh, another 6 hits. Because I just called, he might think I have a 6. Pre-flop, tight aggressive player, what kind of 6s does a tag like me have? Ace 6 suited, 7-6, maybe 8-6 suited if I want to take some risks, 6-5 suited as well. So plenty of 6s in my range. And now the villain bets once again. He increased it to 3/4 pot. I am hero, I'm villain over here. I know this guy named Sky, and he teaches to bet small on the flop and then larger on the turn. Because when you go from 1/3 pot to 3/4 pot turn, it looks really scary. It looks like I mean, or like he means business. So maybe that's what this dude is doing. Maybe he pays attention to Sky's teachings. So I'm just going to call. Let's see what he does on the river. The 5 hits. The villain came out firing a little bit over half pot, but he goes from 1/3 pot, 3/4 pot to a little over half pot. He doesn't like his hand. I totally suspect he has 2 overcards right now. And if I raise, which is what I'm going to do, if I raise, he's going to put me on a 6 the entire time, slow playing, top pair, turn to full house, and now trying to get value on the river. Plus, if I make this raise more than 3 times his bet, that's more than half of my stack. I am totally sending the message that I got the goods. So what happens? Villain folds, we win the hand. Lovely bluff, way to play this kind of hand against a loose aggressive maniac. And you could see Hero actually had ace 10 suited. So I think I played my hand pretty face up, and this tight aggressive player really took advantage of me. I applaud him for that. Now, in a prior hand, I told you to not respect small 3-bets. We've got a queen 3 here, min open, small 3-bet. Do not respect it. A couple of folds, and we come back over the top at 25 big blinds. I know this isn't a great 3-bet bluffing hand, but it's a total surprise hand. If we hit something great, he is never going to see this coming. I do wish quite often that I had like ace 3 to block him from having pocket aces, ace king, ace queen, the kind of hands that can call the 3-bet. But occasionally, I just throw these bets out. And one of the things you want to pay attention, throughout this entire session I played, I have been aggressive, and you've seen aggressive stats. But sometimes tables break and you get moved to a new table, or you just open up a new table. I've only been here 3 hands. I haven't shown any aggression yet. He should believe that I have a very strong hand at this point. And he doesn't. For shame. But ace king 7, remember what I told you before? When you 3-bet, one of the first hands they think of is ace king. There's an ace and a king. I'm going to use this to make a one-time Cbet bluff. I just said one time. I do have the backdoor flush draw and the backdoor straight draw. I think I would barrel for the rest of my chips. I put in 27 right now. If he calls, I would barrel for the remaining 45 if a diamond, a 10, or a jack comes to add some drawing equity. A jack of diamonds would be great, giving me the flush draw plus the gut shot. But alas, he folds and we take this bad boy down. The next hand, ace king. Speaking of having ace king when you 3-bet, or them putting you on ace king, we've got one player posting in 29.5 big blinds, probably a fishy player when they have a short stack and don't top off. And this is actually his first hand at the table he's posting right now. He ISO raises to 4.5 and he calls, okay, couple of folds. Now, one of the key things when you're playing any kind of cash game, always pay attention to your opponent's stack sizes. We have 2 short stacked fish over here. I definitely am going to 3-bet. I don't want to just call. I'm happy if I just take it down and they fold. That's a 9.5 big blind win with ace king. Totally good result right there, right? Never frown when you take it down. But if I bet something on the smaller side, like let's say even 3xing this right here, even 4xing it, let's go to 18 big blinds, there's a good chance one of these 2 will call, or he'll shove and I'll be forced to go post flop, which I probably have a good hand against his calling range, right? I don't mind that. But I'd rather just come in for the 3-bet, and I want to make it a size that really puts the pressure on these 2. And I'm paying attention. He's got 29.5. If I only went up to 25, and if he calls, he can shove, and then I can't come back over the top because it wasn't a min re-raise shove. I have to bet something smaller so that his shove can reopen the action for me, and then I can shove in over the top if he calls. Or I just put enough to put this sucker all in, and we get a few folds. Loving the results of this one here. Now, the final hand of this session, a few folds, I decide to open raise, king, queen suited, of course. Now, an interesting thing, villain 26 was in that prior hand where I squeezed to 30 big blinds with ace king. He might see me, and especially with these small, number of stats, he might see me now as a very loose, aggressive player. He ends up calling a few folds. Okay. In my mind, I'm really thinking this. He sees me as a lag. He's looking like he could be lag. I know it's only 3 hands, but you got to go with what you know. And so far, he's looking like he could be loose, aggressive himself. So I flop top pair. I'm hoping he's the kind of player that can bet when I check. So I check with the plan to check raise. He checks behind. Drat! So turn comes a 7. I've got to bet for value now, going just basically half pot. And he raises me. I'm thinking originally that he might be a loose aggressive player. Sometimes against loose aggressive players, this is a strategy that you want to use against them. Just call them down with top pair. Don't try to build the pot, but check to them. Let them bluff street after street. It's one way. They're spewing chips. Let them spew chips when you have a value hand. So I just call. The pot is now 33 big blinds, 121. He has 91 behind. I river 2 pair. So I just check. The plan is to check call, and he bets full pot right now. It's one of those calls I don't really like a re-raise because what can he give me value with? Maybe just like a king 9 or a king 7? But I decided to just call. I went with my plan, tried to exploit a spewy player who I think might be a spewy player. And then boom, he ends up having the king 5. And I think he probably thought he was betting for value on this river with that king. He probably put me on like a weak queen or something. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed those 12 aggressive hands, and I hope that it gave you a little incentive to get out there and play some aggressive poker for yourself. Please like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more, and leave a comment below. I'll catch you later.